Welcome back to Plague Scythe Studios, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Explained. On today's installment, we're going to be talking about a couple of terms that get mixed up among novice guitar players and experienced guitar players alike, and that is reamping and amp slaving. The misunderstandings surrounding these topics are generally novice guitar players, beginning recording artists that think reamping is amp slaving, and a lot of people don't even know what amp slaving is. So we'll be talking about a little bit both today and which one is more likely applicable to you. So let's start with reamping. The misunderstanding that I see commonly among beginning guitar players is that they think reamping is taking a guitar amp and then plugging that guitar amp into another guitar amp. It's reamped, right? You got one amp, you put it into another amp, that's reamping. Incorrect. Reamping is taking a clean signal and re-recording it through another amplifier or recording device that simulates an amplifier. For instance, let's say that I take one of my guitars and plug it into my USB interface and record directly into Cubase. That's going to give you a clean signal. So what you can do is take that clean signal after you've recorded it and manipulate the sound afterwards. This is really useful if you're not quite decided on an amplifier or a general sound to use for your mix. This doesn't mean that the sound that you hear while you're recording has to be a completely dry signal though. You can actually monitor through a different amplifier or through software or through something like the AX8 or Helix. This is extremely useful for something like metal where you get the general feel and tone of a metal guitar sound while you're recording without having to actually decide on what sound you're going to use on that particular record. If your interface supports multiple inputs, you can actually record both a dry signal from your guitar as well as a process signal through something like an amplifier, half stack, or an AX8, Helix, Kemper, what have you. You can then take that dry signal and apply it to 1, 2, 3, as many different amplifier sounds as you like, and you don't even have to keep the original sound that you recorded if you don't want it. So this is what reamping is for. It's to take a dry signal that you've recorded from your guitar and apply it into different amplifier models, cabinet models, whatever that you want to mix and match in your mix. For all you players out there that are starting to get into recording, this is something you should probably take note of. I would definitely invest into some type of interface, some type of guitar modeling processor, something that allows you to record multiple streams of audio. Namely, being able to hear something that sounds like a process guitar, but being able to record at least a dry signal and the process signal at the same time. That way, when you're getting into your mixes and your finished demos at the end, you can always go back and retroactively change the sound of your guitar. Because I can't tell you how many times I've recorded something with pedals or something just for a quick demo. I've had, oh man, that's the best take I could have ever done. And I'm stuck with a sound that I'm not particularly happy with. Whereas with something like VST plugins, which is technically reamping, you can take a clean signal, multiply your tracks, mix and match all you want, and get a completely unique sound after you've already recorded. So that's reamping in a nutshell. It's basically signal splitting. You're taking your clean guitar tone and putting it through one or more different amplifier sounds at a later time within one mix. Amp slaving, on the other hand, is what a lot of newcomers think that reamping is. So it's taking one guitar amplifier and plugging it into another guitar amplifier. But this isn't quite as simple as taking the speaker out from one guitar head and into the input of the other amp head. Matter of fact, do not do that, ever. Do not plug anything except a reactive load into the speaker output of a tube amp, and that's a whole other topic on its own. But no matter, even if it's solid state or tube, you're gonna have a lot of power coming out of the speaker output. You do not wanna throw that into the input of your other nice guitar amp. It's not gonna sound good even if the lines were correct. Generally what you would do for amp slaving, and the reason people do it, is to take the preamp signal of one guitar amp head and plugging it into the effects loop of the other amp head. So what this does is allow you to have one tone of one amplifier and use that on, say, a half stack like I have here, and then you can take the other amplifier and use it as its own power amp. and in this case a combo 2x12. So what you end up getting is the same preamp tone, in this case a single rectifier going through both a Mesa 4x12 and through a Marshall 2x12. This can be useful in a lot of different scenarios. Let's say that you have a 10-watt amp head that you just love the sound of, but you're playing a really big club. There's no way that that little amp is going to fill that size of a room. So what can you do? You can take a lot more powerful amplifiers and plug the send of that into the returns of the other amps, thereby getting your basic overall tone of the first amp head while getting the loudness and power of the other amplifiers and cabinets. Same thing applies if your primary tone head is also, a 100 watt, as long as you're using an effects loop, or in the case of the Mesa Boogie amps, they have a slave out, which Metallica actually used in their earlier Master of Puppets and Justice for All albums through Marshall amps. And what that does is actually tap off of the speaker output. So you're getting the power amp sound. So you're getting the 6L6 tube sound even through that solid state amp, which is pretty cool. Again, do not plug the speaker outputs of a guitar amplifier into the input or effects return of another amplifier. You will kill one or both of those amps. You can do this if you have an attenuator and it is loaded. Every tube amp is expecting a load, and even a solid state amp, if that's what you're using as your tone amp, is still going to have a lot of power that could potentially fry the other one you're using. So always have a speaker load on both amplifiers, whether you're silently recording with some type of load box or a cabinet, and be sure to use the effects loops if that's what your manufacturer recommends for that amplifier, or a slave out if it does have it. Amp slaving definitely isn't as popular as it once was, but you can still achieve some pretty cool tonal capabilities out of it. So let's say you have a JCM 800 and you just love that EL34 power amp sound, but you have a solid state Randall that you think sounds pretty awesome with its preamp, but the solid state power amp just isn't doing it for you. So there would be a perfect opportunity to mix and match the two. In the ever-evolving world of digital VSTs and amp modelers, you can actually achieve those same results by just mixing and matching power tubes in programs that'll let you use it. So something like the AX8, you can just change out the power amp section. Something with like free VSTs. In my very own Metallica video, actually, I changed the power amp tubes to EL34s to give that more compressed Master of Puppets and Justice for All sound. So it definitely, the methodology has its use cases even today, even if you're not actually doing this to achieve that. In conclusion, reamping, amp slaving, definitely very different things. Reamping, you're going to be recording a dry signal and applying something processed later. And with amp slaving, you're taking one amplifier and using the power section of another amplifier to make it louder or get you more volume across the stage. So that's that. If you have any other suggestions for Explain, please let me know. I got a couple more in the pipeline that should be coming a little sooner than this one did. And other than that, appreciate you watching, and please leave comments below. Thanks. See you next time. Bye.